Hey, it's the Alberts, and welcome to another sit down show as we begin to deal with back to the basics. And tonight we have a treat. I'm telling you, this going to be jam packed, full of knowledge, full of wisdom. I'm telling you, the couples, I believe, going to be really happy to dig into this episode of Back to the Basics. So tonight, we're going to talk about when the children came. And let me say hello to our guests, to the Richardsons, the Frederick's, the Dibbles.
Hey.
Welcome. Always good to see you all. Lord, thank God for the wisdom and knowledge that you all have. Let me do this first. I'm going to ask, I know we did it before, how many children do each couple have? Just to let our audience know again. Okay, the Richardsons, how many children?
We have 3 children and 1 grandchild.
3 children, 1 grand. The Frederick's.
We have 4 children and 2 grandkids.
And the Dibbles.
We have 2 kids and no grands.
and we have
6 and 6.
I know, but I'll just say we got a head full. But anyway, on tonight, couples, we want to talk about when the children came, the effects that it had on our relationship, what it takes to raise kids, because we understand that it is indeed a lot of work. But before we get into our show, I believe my honey wants to say something, give a shout out.
Oh, yeah, we're going to give a shout out to Elder and Sister Smith on their 50th wedding anniversary on today. So
wow.
Celebrating 50 years.
Wow. We want to thank the couples for their expression of love on our last broadcast day.
Caught us by surprise.
Caught us by surprise. So we thank y'all for that, because we have been on since that. And also on a sadder occasion, we want to remember everyone that was affected by the 9/11 on today, since today is 9/11.
Amen. So we thank God for all of our first responders and those that are part of the military and different ones who really helped out during that time. So anyway, we appreciate you all for on tonight's show. So let's dig in. Let's dig in. When the children came. Let's do this. I'm going to start off with my beautiful couples, the Dibbles this time.
All right. Let's go. Big buck. No whammies.
When you first when you first became parents, which one of you changed the most?
I think I did.
In what way?
I think I changed, I don't know, for the worst. Hey, I'm testifying. I ain't testifying, you know. Yeah. It took me a while to adjust to the fact that the time and energy that that Cindy had to put into taking care of the children. A lot of times she would, hey, she would come to bed tired, and here I go complaining, not really looking at what all she'd done before she got to that point to get in bed. But it didn't take me long to adjust. But when the children came, it took me about a good 3 to 6 months before I really realized that, hey, man, you need to chill out with all of that. You need to just focus on what need to be focused on, because you read books about all this stuff before you became married, before the children come, or when you have children. But a lot of times people or I or anybody will read books on how to do it, but to actually put that in action when the children do come is a whole different ballgame. So it took me about 3 to 6 months to adjust. It's not my way. It's not about me and my wants and needs. It's about what's better for the family and the children at the time. So, but I did adjust it to become better.
Amen.
Okay. Miss Dibbles?
Yes.
How often did you tell him to give you a helping hand?
Oh, very often. Oh, when the children came, it was time for mama to stay home and keep the children. When the children came, I ain't mind the kitchen and the bedroom if I had to stay at the house and take care of the children. I was not offended by the kitchen and the bedroom.
All right, Jane.
but you know, it was like I had an older mother at the church that I would always tell him, I'm gonna tell Mother Faber, if you don't help me with these children, because I couldn't figure out how to go to the grocery store. Believe it or not, I couldn't figure out how to go to the grocery store with the children because it just seemed like it was just overwhelming. It was too much to put the baby in the car, take the baby out the car, go to the grocery store, put the baby in the car and out the car. That was just too much. And I was like, I can't even go to the grocery store. And I would see people in the store with their children. I was like, no, it's just too much. I just can't do it. And I used to always say, I'm gonna tell Mother Faber, if you don't help me with these children, because you know they always say you're supposed to be bringing your parents into your marriage. So I couldn't use my mom and my daddy. But I had old Mother Faber at that church. I said, Mother Faber, if you don't help me with these children, you better
Okay. So let me ask the Richardson, when you all became first-time parents, which one of y'all changed the most?
I'm not sure which one of us changed the most, but as a young mother being 20 or 21, I grew up real fast. I had a lot of growing up to do real fast because I had a little person depending on me to do everything. So I would say I did grow up a lot faster.
Okay.
I mature a lot more.
So we're going to ask you the same question. Brother Richardson, you having something you want to add?
Well, I would just say that I have to agree with her. If you talk about who changed the quickest, who changed the most and the quickest, it'd have to be her because, I mean, she's gone from being a single person as a person within herself to actually bringing into the world another person. So her body changed, her mindset changed, physically she changed. And by all of those changes coming about, you know, they go through this thing, well, my body is out of shape and all this kind of stuff. I just had a baby. So it becomes emotionally draining after the child is there. And that affects us as husbands because now we've got to deal with that along with them, as Eric said, you know, spending so much time with. So you got to compare who's spending the most time with the baby, and they already got that negative thing they're dealing with in terms of their body, and now they got this child that caused it, for the rest of their life. And if we ain't spending enough time to at least help them and all that kind of stuff, it's new for us too because we never seen them that way. We never had to experience them in that light. So. All those changes brought about changes for us. So I would say as the husband and the father, most of the changes I experienced were quick, just like they were for her, but it was a response more so to her than having a new child in the house because, we always fall back on the last, excuse. Hey, I got to go to work. You take care of this baby. I got to go to work. I got to go to work. But you have to eventually come home. You can't work 24 hours a day. So, and when you get there, she's still there doing that smoke. Where you been? So it's a change. And it's a change that never goes away, especially if you keep on having them. And we did. So,
you notice, Darryll, how he said that the baby caused the change, like he ain't had nothing to do with change.
The culture.
Okay, we're going to the verdicts. The verdicts, when y'all became first-time parents, who changed the quickest?
How did that change?
Don't y'all start fighting then.
I get to look up quick. Well, in our situation, it was a lot different from the rest of y'all because I was married before my wife passed away and I had 2 kids. So when I got married to Michelle, she came from a single person right off the bat as being a mom. So she had to change, and she did a good job. And when we had our boys, then I had to change a whole lot more than what I've already changed. I'm used to being a parent. So yeah.
But I will say this: it was a little trickery. Now, when I was expecting, I was Queen Michelle. Anything, I mean, any kind of changes, any kind of I want this, can you go get that? It did not matter. But that was not going to trick me to keep having it. I like that change, but he was when I was expecting, he was always very attentive, like super attentive. So he changed. You going to tell it?
No, you
Okay. So he changed, but I think it was because I learned. Well, some of it was because his first wife had a lot of complications having both of the kids. Like they were told that they couldn't have any kids. They went the first time and they had a child, and then the second time it was, unfortunately, it was unfortunate for her, and I think because she had so many complications and changes, and by me being first time expecting, he was able to kind of look and see and kind of compare to make sure we weren't going the same route. So, yeah.
Okay. So, do our other ladies agree that your men treat you all like queens while you was expecting? The reason why I'm asking this is because a lot of time we as men, even though you can be expecting, we have a tendency to forget the hardship, the complications that it can take for you to actually do that and carry that child. And and continue to do what you do. And so a lot of time we'll continue to do, as Darren said, we'll continue to work. We'll continue to keep going. And you're carrying that child, and it can be kind of difficult, but we might not think about it in the manner that you might want us to. So did you felt like it could have been a little bit more Queenieville?
Well, my husband was real attractive to me even the more, I think, when I was pregnant. I don't know if it was because of my pregnancy or what, but he was like all over me, and I'm like, oh. Some days, because when you're pregnant, you have all these different emotions going on. I know y'all don't know nothing about that, men, but you do. And he was always just wanting to be all over me and everything. So at some days I really needed that, and then some days it was like, oh, please go with all of that. But, it was what it was, and I just think that I'm glad that it turned out the way it did, because we waited at least 5 years before we even started with the family. Because I'm like, wait a minute now, we just said I do. I need to learn how to do this I do and mean this I do. So let's work this I do, and then we'll think about children later on. So then we waited for 5 years before we started with the children. Then I said, okay, now since I think we know how to do this I do, now let's bring the family in and start with the family.
Okay. All right. So we found out that a lot of times when women have children, they love to be treated extremely special. They like to be looked after. I don't know if Fred did the feet rubbing and all that stuff, but they love Queenieville. So one of the things that we have to remember, young men, if you're going to get married, remember your wife during her pregnancy and try to give her as much attention as you possibly can. It cannot always be about work. But I'm going to get to this, because this brought me to another question. Now, this is kind of tough. If you don't want to dig into it, you don't have to. Did any of you men felt neglected during your wife's pregnancy?
I didn't
Okay.
because I was like she said earlier, I was very attentive. I watch everything because I was afraid because what happened last time. I mean, just to happen on a Saturday night, and then a Saturday morning, this woman died. So I know how scary it is for a person to be pregnant and something out the blue that happened. So I was very attentive to Michelle. So
Yeah, and he taught me a lot of stuff because it was my first time. So he had experience. So a lot of things that that I didn't, or things that just changes that happen, and he was aware and able to kind of bear with me with the changes.
Okay. Richardson's, y'all want to add to that? Or?
I mean, well, I can honestly say that I can't remember any instance where I think I would have felt neglected at that age. Well, we were younger, obviously, as she said, she was 20 when she was pregnant. So, and we both, obviously I was around that age, I was 20. So what we might have deemed as being, receiving some kind of neglect. I mean, I can't say I remember any instance where that ever happened. She was still, even attentive to me. And I don't know if that's the best thing to say, but it's true. I can't remember any instance where I felt like that would have happened or that she did anything like that. Probably looking back on it, I probably would think or wish I could have, as Ricky said and did. And I don't think it necessarily has to be for that. But in his case, he speaks of a situation that he experienced and he didn't want to have that repeated. No. I just think that needs to be a general thought for men. We need to be more attentive to them than they are to us. Because they are in a situation that's life-changing for them. And it ain't quite so easy. I mean, after all these years, as I look back on it, I feel like maybe I left her out there to have to rebound herself, and I don't appreciate that much in terms of, from my point of view. So if I had to do it all over again, I think I would say I would be more attentive to her as opposed to wondering she married me. So, I mean, what else do we do? Why do I feel like she needs to do so much more for me? She's carrying my child. I should have been more there for her as opposed to expecting her to do any more for me than what she did. So that's kind of my little take on it. Might be a little different, but I think a lot of young couples who start out that way might need to think about it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Dibbles, would you like to add to that?
Yes, sir. Before I say what I say, I just hope y'all invite me back. Hoping I have a real good. I have a sense of humor, and I'm serious about what I say because I just feel that my words that I speak are for not only for the couples that's here, but for the ones who chiming in. And you heard what she said. I mean, did I feel neglected? Of course not. I was all over her. I would not allow her to feel or for her to neglect me, because that was another experience that I was told to experience during marriage while she's pregnant. Mm-hmm. I see you, Miss Janice. That's why I said, I hope y'all invite me back. I hope y'all invite me back. But a lot of people don't know, and I'm gonna share it now because it's no secret. Because we had lost our first child. We did. We lost our first child, and it wasn't for my sister-in-law Lashana being at the hospital with me, because of course I didn't know what to do. And my sister-in-law have held her in her arms while we walked down the aisles of the hospital. And the doctor reassured us that it's nothing that y'all did. It's the natural body that actually rejects and aborts the child. Mm-hmm. And so that brings some assurance to me because I didn't pressure her. I didn't get on her nerves, anything during pregnancy. So when we got pregnant the second time, I heard that Brother Darryll, when we got pregnant, I didn't. So I was very attentive to her as much as possible because I wanted to make sure that she was calm, make sure that she was well, make sure she felt my presence because this is my child. She was carrying my child. And I wanted to make sure, and I talked to that child as well as she had talked to the child. So no, I didn't feel neglected at all. It's just that when she came, and I think that might be leading us to another question, but I'm gonna stay where we at. But no, I did not feel neglected at all.
Okay, because we know that a lot of times when you're real young and you're married young, you have the tendency to think that even though your wife is pregnant, that she still can do all things as often as you pretty much think that she should do it. And so a lot of times young men, young men can be very neglectful, only thinking about ourselves when our wife is actually, as we say, carrying a child, which is something that it's not like carrying a football, is it? Nah, just kidding. But anyway, it's a tough gig to do, and we have to be more thoughtful concerning our feelings and our attention toward them. Now, because we want to talk a little bit more and get a little bit more in depth, so I'm asking this. All right, we have a question. Did any couple have to deal with postpartum depression? Let me do this. I'm going to go to the Ferdics this time. Ferdics? Did you have to deal with postpartum depression? Major emotional change.
At my first 2 pregnancies, I don't think I knew what postpartum depression was because I was so young. I think the second one, I did have it, but I was in denial and I just kind of let it pass over. But I will say this, that, and I had my hand earlier because I was going to say that, but I say something about this, but I'm glad you asked this question. I was pregnant again and we were having another child and we had a miscarriage. And I suffered bad postpartum depression. Like I was depressed. I stayed in bed. I was just, I was mean. I was, like I had pain and I wanted him to feel the pain. And then he felt it, but one day I guess he got tired. And he yelled at me and he said, well, Michelle, you act like I didn't lose a child too. Like he felt what I was feeling. He just didn't express it. And I just felt like it was all about me because I was carrying the child. And then that's when I realized that he had feelings too. But I realized that it's us, not just me, because I was carrying the baby. So, but had he not expressed that to me, I still would have felt like he wasn't like everything he did, it wasn't enough. It just was not enough in consoling me because I felt like I lost a child. And I really wanted the child. I lost the child. So until he just got tired, he just got fed up one day and was like, look, you act like I didn't lost a child too. It hurts me just as much as it hurts you.
Let me ask you this, since you brought that up, how did you got over your postpartum depression?
I think it was with him saying that kind of slapped me into reality. Okay. And then just prayer and prayer talking. We just that kind of like opened it up because my husband is not a very believe it or not, he's not a very talkative person. Well, he doesn't express his feelings. He doesn't express his feelings a lot. He don't like to express his feelings. And so when he said that was an expression that it just took it to a different level. So it was kind of like the beginning of me kind of snapping out of the postpartum. And I just had to keep talking to myself because I didn't want to. Once I read or was reading about postpartum depression and realizing that it was real and the pamphlets and all this other stuff, I didn't want to stay in that situation because we had kids and we had a family. I still had to work and everything else. So I just could not, I had to pray and a lot of talking just to kind of get us through it.
Okay. Before I get to the Richardsons, I know that Dibbles mentioned that Did you went through a depression?
No.
Symptoms? Okay.
No, I don't recall any depression, because once again,
Okay.
my husband, he was all over me, all up under me, making sure everything was okay. You okay? You all right? The only problem I had was when I heard his grandmother in the room next door saying, "You need to take that baby and get that baby some milk. She ain't making enough of milk for that baby," because he kept saying the baby was crying. I was trying to breastfeed my baby. And I heard his grandma tell her, said, "You need to tell her to go to the store and get some milk for that baby. That baby needs some formula."
Yep.
She ain't making enough of milk in there. That was the only little problem that I had. But other than that, no, there was no. And by the way, we didn't end up getting that formula. But Grandma was right. She was right, but she just wasn't. Her timing was wrong. But she was right. And I got over it, and the baby got some formula.
Okay. The Richardsons, y'all want to add to that?
I can't really say whether I went through postpartum depression or not, because I had stair steps. So by the time I was finished with one, another one was coming. I didn't have time.
Oh God.
Anyhow, I didn't have time to deal with postpartum depression. So I don't know if I had it. I guess I kind of like pushed it aside and just, plowed through it. Cause I had a miscarriage after my third child. So at that point I was in denial that I was pregnant again and refused to go to the doctor. So by the time I did go, I realized I was, pregnant and having a miscarriage.
Gotcha. Because you were having steps. There was no break, and so your constantly happened.
Kept on coming.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the fact that having postpartum depression or having such an emotional change, because after you have children, there is a big emotional change.
It is.
And it's going to affect both couples. I'm really glad you brought that out, Ms. Furtick, due to the fact that, sometimes we have to be more aware, as we're brought out, of not only changes, the emotional changes and everything else that can take place after you have a kid, and you constantly going about and you can be very tired. This is lead to my next question. No, who that went? Let me start off with the Furticks. Which one of you got up the most if the child was sick or need changing? Which one of you got up the most when the child was sick or need changing?
I did.
He did.
When Michelle gets up, she turns on all the lights. And that wakes the baby up.
Because I couldn't see.
So now with me, I can walk through the dark and I see very well at that time. I'll go get the milk, I'll warm it up, and I'll come back in. I'll change the baby pamper. It's probably wet. I'll change the baby pamper. I give the bottle to the child. Probably in 30 minutes the most, the child going back to sleep because it's still dark. But now with her, she be there for a while.
Well, at first, I didn't hear the baby holler.
See? See?
I was a heavy sleeper, so thank God that he had experience and heard the baby, because the baby probably still cried to this day.
I got a kick out of it.
All right, Richardsons, which one of you?
Here's let me give you the basic agreement we made. Now, when we married, I must say I interrupted her career. She was in school, we were both in college, and long story short, I promised her, I said, listen, because of our marrying so soon and my interrupting your career, I'll work and do all I need to do to make sure financially we can do what we need to do. You can only work only if you want to. I prefer you don't, but that would be your decision. You know, I didn't want to feel like I interrupted her moving forward in her career. Now, with that agreement being made, brother got to get some sleep now if I got to work. But I will say this. Now, that was the agreement we made. However, nothing replaces for the mother and the father, nothing replaces intimate time with that child. Nothing can replace it. So as much, I would say, looking back, even though I made that agreement, I still should have somewhere in my manhood found enough time to still share that experience with her just for me, because spending that intimate time with those children would have created a greater bond. And there's nothing you can do to replace that other than spend time with those children. Now, as far as that intimate bond, she's got it hands down. She can feel it. I mean, even to this point, that's right, in those kids' life, when they're practically, they're grown adults, but there's an intimate connection there that, I can't say I'm jealous of, because that's the decision we made, but I'm proud to say I'm happy that one of us did it, and it wasn't grandmama or granddaddy, it was one of us that did it. So I can settle for that. However, brothers, there is no substitute for it. So find some time, no matter what your agreement may be, to spend intimate time with those children at that particular time in their life, because you can never get that time back.
Okay. All right, the Devils, you would like to add to that?
Yes, of course it was me, because I was a stay-at-home mom, and with him being a truck driver, he had early mornings. We went out in the AM, so it was me always taking care of the baby, getting up, caring for the baby. Had the baby on the schedule because I was a stay-at-home mom, so that made it much easier for me, and it wasn't stressful. Also, I just lost my thought. I was going to say something about when the Richardsons over here, when he was talking about how he the agreement that he made because he felt like he interrupted her career, and I was grateful because my husband, even though I went to school to be a teacher or whatever, but I didn't like lose hope or think, well, like, oh gosh, my career and I can't do this and that. And sometimes that's what adults have. You people that go into marriage and they're not ready to have children. You have to have that conversation before you get married, that when you want to have children, or if you're going to have children or not. Because if you don't, then that can be a good hiccup in your marriage. You could break up. Your marriage can be destroyed because one person got their career that they want to do, and then the other one wants to work on the family. Well, I'm not ready yet. So I thank God that things worked out for us, that we was in agreement, and everything worked out fine. And I was able to later on, still work with children and do what I do, but I was still able to be there to raise my family and to take care of those children. Now, like with Eric, because they were so small, he was a little afraid. He was afraid that he wasn't holding them right, or when they would start throwing the milk up and stuff, he would get all excited about that. Come get the baby, come get the baby. I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. With changing them and stuff like that, he was like, no, you come. I'm like, no, that's your daughter. You can change her. It's okay. So those little things like that, he was a little afraid of, and I had to let him know, no, it's okay. You can do this. It's okay. And then I always said, because you never know what happened to me one day. One day I might not be here to do it. And of course, this was a smart comment where there's somebody else to do it.
So we really have to learn to participate in changing, getting up. It was one of the things that some of us did. And of course, I'm pretty much was like Darren there when, I don't know, but I chip in enough. I did try to chip in, but there were certain things she could do, of course, as they got older, certain things that she would do that I couldn't do, and certain things that I didn't mind doing that she wasn't going to do. That as we get up, but nevertheless, now That brings me to another question. Since you all talk so much about the health, did any argument pursue because you felt like one or the other wasn't contributing enough?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was a point, like she said, I was truck driving. I get up like 3 a.m. in the morning to be to work at 4. Well, sometimes the baby, our firstborn, she would start crying by about 1:30. So I done woke up. But of course, I got my back turned. I'm trying not to even breathe, not let her know I'm up. And I'd be like, I know she hear that baby crying. I know she hear that baby crying. So I said that I'll let the baby cry about 5 minutes and don't move. After a while, I say, Cindy. So I said, Cindy, you hear that baby crying. You hear him too. I said, oh, yeah, okay. So we both playing possum, trying to see which one gonna get up. So here we go, 1:30 in the morning, fussing about who gonna get up and take the baby. I'm like, I gotta get up 3 o'clock in the morning. Da, 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 da. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say an argument, but it was a debate of who's gonna get up and get the baby. Of course, she be tired sometime, and I'd be tired as well. But I did got up a lot of times before my 3 o'clock alarm clock go off and tend to the child, and then I go back to sleep, and then the next time, about 30 minutes later, start crying again. I'd be like, I ain't getting up this time. So, yeah, but so we had debates. I would say arguments.
We argue. We argue. Yeah, it is what it is. That's why I had to call Mother Favor. Mother Favor, come get him. I told y'all that earlier. Come get him. He ain't helping me with these children. He's doing what I need him to do.
But I was like, Brother Darryll, I gotta work. I gotta work so you can be that stay-home mom. Hey, you get up 3 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, next thing you gonna do, you going back to sleep. But I gotta work. I gotta get up next hour and hit the road and drive 10, 12 hours a day in a big tractor trailer. So I'm like, Darryll, I gotta work, so you get up.
But it worked out. It was healthy for us. It was healthy for us. And then we had to realize, okay, come on, we gotta give. You gotta give a little bit more. So we had to work it out after we fussed it out. We had to work it out.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw a little nugget in here, and this is totally off track. I'm sitting here thinking, and it's not for y'all. It's for all this that we're talking about with the different couples. And then we got some of these guys out here that don't want to take care of the kids, and you're not married to them. And then when you ask to pay $35 a week, you act at the end of the world, and you want $35 for everything. You want $35 to buy the food, the shoes, the clothes, just
the
everything.
milk. Amen.
You need to. I
contribute as much as possible.
Money that the money that a man can give a woman to help take care of a child is nothing when you have to be there with that child. You if you're not there with them, and if you helping taking care of them, that's a different ball game. But if you're not there, you leave it totally on her, then don't squawk about that little bit of money you giving, because you can never pay that amount of money for the care it takes when a child is with you.
Right.
And I'm not talking to the dads that help take care of the children. I'm talking about these jokers that be hollering about this little bit of money they give. And then I challenge them, you live off of it. You live off of it. If it's something that your child can live off of, you live off of it. Now, I can talk about the mamas too now, but since we're talking about dads and contributing, I'm talking about contributing to helping with the moms, with the babies. Like they're having to get up, sacrifice, but when a lady is by herself, or even we have some men that have raised their kids and the woman wasn't. I know personally of someone who raised their daughters, and the woman wasn't in the picture. So she had probably had to give. So the little bit of money she was giving, it wasn't worth what he sacrificed. So we can never pay enough for to help raise our children.
That's right.
And Ms. Dibble's going to agree with me on this. And you can never overpay in child care either. You got somebody that overpay for the children. You got somebody there. You got somebody that you can trust and not going to mistreat your kids. You can't pay enough for child care. You just it's immeasurable. It's just immeasurable.
Because we keep your children more than you do.
Right.
Absolutely. That's the truth. Absolutely. And that's the truth. So the Richardsons, in any argument pursued due to the fact that you already went to y'all for that? Okay.
No.
So let me ask y'all. Was it?
I don't think so. I guess it was just a given. I was gonna get up.
I'm saying like
He
that.
kind of made it clear. I think he kind of made it clear when he said, you know, we agree for you to stay home and I work. So,
But you know, even in that,
I'm agreeing.
even in that, it's not that I didn't try sometimes, because after a while, I almost want to say it's inhumane when you sit and you can see the stress that's on them. And like in Eric's case, you know, I mean, because Eric, that's what I did for almost 30 years. I drove trucks, and it is a job. And any person that's the wife of a truck driver, you know how, you know, stressful and dangerous that can be. But it still didn't change the fact that if you love your wife, you see the struggle that she goes through. And she would never say it, and she never showed it outwardly to me that it was a problem that I can remember. But I could see that, I mean, sometimes I got to get up and do something, you know, and I tried. There are times that I tried. I will not say it was an even, I spend this much time and she spend that much time. I wasn't able to do that. But and before I went back on saying, well, look, if I'm going to share in this, you got to go to work, I would do the best I could with that. But I was never going to go back on that. I thank God that I never did do that. And I hope I'm not doing what Janice did, but Janice, you brought up a great subject. God knows I wish we had time to talk about that. I know that's not the subject of the day, but I totally agree with you 100%. Elder Albert, I don't know if you're going to get me for following along with her and going, but I think that's a subject that should be considered for conversation, because it affects us as a community in terms of how this happened. It's a very prevalent process. It happens all the time, and it is hurting the little bit of family structure that's left. I've advised many young ladies, listen, cut him out of your life. If he cannot at least take care of those, I call that convenient fatherhood. You just want to be a father when you want to be. You don't want to take care of them financially. You want to show up for birthdays just to say you got a son. And at some point in time, that young lady wants to move on with her life. So I say, let whoever you choose to be the man that's going to love you and your child, let him be the father. I mean, if he's going to take care, there's been so many cases where that has happened, and she will feel like she is in shackles and can't do that because he wants to hop in and out of her life and that child's life every now and again. Let that fella go about his way. Let whoever can be a father to that child be a father to that child. Because the ultimate goal for any man, and this makes, I get emotional when I talk like this, you would think that the most important goal for any man is to see the best for his child.
Yes.
Even if that means you can't be it. If you can't be it, let whoever can be it and get out of the way. Just get out of the way. I'm sorry. I can go for hours talking about that. So let me hop off that real quick. But it's Janice's fault. She brought it up.
Okay. Fergus, did you have a time? Did I start with you? I might have started with you. Okay. The question, we have a question here. Did anyone pregnancy change the goal set for your marriage at the time? Did anyone pregnancy change the goal set for your marriage? You know how we set goals? So I think, okay, they already answered the Richardson. I think the Richardson kind of brought that up too, that he said that he didn't want to mess up her goals in her life. But he did make an agreement about she staying home. Would you like to elaborate on that again? Or?
Sure, yeah, no problem at all. So to kind of answer the question, because there was an interruption, part of the agreement I made in terms of making sure that I did all of the providing, because we seem to live in the world today that if you get advice, they tell you that it's nearly impossible to operate or survive without two incomes. Well, I said, well, that's not going to be the case in this household. And if we need two incomes, I'll get a second job. And I made this promise. I said, if I've got to get three, if you don't want to go to work, you are not going to go to work. I mean, as long as I can physically and I'm able to do it, you're not going to do it. And part of that agreement was if she decided after there were no more children, they weren't coming, if you wanted to go back to school and pursue your career, I will work while you do that. And yeah, so if there's an interruption and those things do happen, I would suggest, working together for goals that you set, whether it be before you married or after you married. I think that helps us the most. We're not just, husband and wife, we're partners. And we want to support each other in decisions that they make, as long as they don't affect the family unit. The minute you start getting selfish in decisions, now that's one thing we need to understand as members of the unit. And the unit, I mean the husband and wife team. If you choose a goal, and whether it's pregnancy or whatever the case may be, changes that at the time, and then later on you still want to pursue that goal, but it's a selfish goal because it doesn't fit the family structure of that time, then maybe you need to change your idea about whether that goal should fit you at this point in time. Sometimes goals are okay if it's for you as a single person, but not as a mother and a wife or a husband and a father. And you have to think about it, because now you need to communicate that with your partner and see if it fits the family construct. If it doesn't, then I think it may be something you need to change. So 2 ways to look at it. If it still fits you and make you better and it makes the family better, then I say figure out a way to communicate that with your partner and you make that decision to move forward. But if it doesn't fit at this time or any time, then maybe you need to change whether that should be a goal that you even pursue at all.
Okay, Frederick, would you like to add to, did anyone pregnancy change the goal set for your marriage at the time? Did either one of y'all pregnancy change the goals that y'all had set for the family? And the Darryll did say no, it did not. Mm-hmm. So, as Mr. Richard Darryll, I'm sorry, Darryll said, what we have to really think about is, does your goals fit the family structure, and is the best thing at this time? And that's one of the things we really need to really consider. At that time, put it on the back burner. It's not the end of the world. Put it on the back burner, do what you can do for the family, and time will come where you can go back and pursue whatever it is. So let us remember that. So do we have another question? Okay. What's the one thing you all would do differently if you could in raising your children? Well, I'm going to tell you this because I'm actually going to get to that. So if y'all will hold off, write that down for me. I'm actually going to get to that. What's the one thing you all would do differently if you could in raising your children? Set that question to the side for me, producer, if you will hold that for me and get ready to bring that back up. I'm going to go to a different phase because I like that question. We have that question. So I'm going to go to this. Let's go to as those kids begin to move on. Your kids now are beginning to start school. So when they begin to start, did both of you get up and got the children ready, or just one? Did both of you? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna repeat it. Did both of you got up to help the children get ready, or did just one of you got up? Richardson's.
Before you answer, don't say. Listen, I can personally remember sometimes I got up and help, but it's not going to be enough for her to say, yeah, you helped me do that. Now you can go ahead and answer. I got up. You see what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So which one was it? Which one? So we already know we just spilled a bean.
I will admit she got up the most, but I know she was. I don't want her to say it in such a way as if I never got up. There were times I got up.
Most of the time he was already gone.
Yeah, that's
right. Okay, gotcha.
You need to get the kids up.
Yeah.
So it was on you to get the kids together. Now let me ask you this, because I'm gonna ask each couple this as we go on, as I go to the next couple. So I'm asking the Richardsons now. Okay, was breakfast included in getting them ready? Because a lot of people don't really cook breakfast for the kids that go to school. Was breakfast included in getting them ready?
I guess it was half and half. Sometimes they ate breakfast at home and sometimes they ate it at school.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to the Devils.
Okay.
To the Devils.
Okay. All right. Well, of course, he was already gone, so I was the one getting the children up. During this time, I was also homeschooling my children.
Okay.
So I didn't have to get them off to school. We was going to school in the next room. Of course, breakfast was included some days. Then when I started my business, after I had them, I think I had my baby and I went back to work after 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, she got sick in childcare. And then that's when I came home and I didn't go back. So I kept them. I kept the first one up until about 3rd grade. And I sent her to school for 4th grade, 3rd or 4th grade, somewhere in there. I sent her to school. But during that time, but I pretty much got them ready. And it was pretty much easy because, like I said, I was already on a schedule. I had them on a schedule. We did like school uniforms. So it was nothing, that I had to get this and that and all of that. We just did school uniforms. And then when I sent them to school at 3rd grade, the first year, I still did school uniforms. I just kind of like spiked their little outfit up a little bit with some hair bows and some different sandals and stuff. So it wasn't really stressful. Like I said, when we planned to wait at least 5 years to have children, we really planned it out. The Lord allowed us to plan it out, and we stuck with the plan. And once the children came, it was pretty much smooth sailing, pretty much until now that they are teenagers.
I pretty much had that mindset from the beginning, like Richardson down here. I was always taught from my structure of when I first got saved, or becoming a man of God, and how we should always have our household set up on one income, and that be the man's income. And if my wife was to come home and say, you know what, baby, I don't want to work no more, or the job getting on my nerves, I should be able to tell her, okay, well, sit at the house and don't worry about bills, because the bills are already upon my shoulder, not hers. So it is pretty much like say majority of the time she be getting the kids dressed. I can't remember not one time. At least Brother Richardson, you got some on your belt, but I ain't got none. I can never remember getting the girls ready for school. Because I've been driving trucks over 25 years. So and getting up 3:00 a.m. out of those 25, about 20 of those years. So yes, I was already going, and she was getting them ready, and they were being homeschooled and all that good stuff. So yes.
He probably would have did if it was a boy. He probably would have.
Yeah, I'm not happy there. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he's in the fight. Look at Michelle.
Fredix, which one of you?
Okay, so Darren and Eric, they drive the trucks. My husband repairs the truck. So he had to be to work just as early.
Yep.
So he never got the kids ready for school. And even on his day off, he never. Now, maybe he can remember. I don't remember. I always cook breakfast or had some breakfast for them because I'm a little frugal and I'd rather spend my money somewhere else. And we didn't qualify for like free lunch and all this other stuff. But we had one child that was a healthy eater. So I had to, we would fix breakfast, but this child would go to school and still eat breakfast. So, which got me in trouble with the lunch lady because I was getting ill. And so I called one morning and she was like, in other words, she said, you need to get your lazy self out the bed and fix your child breakfast.
Ooh, well, you tell me that.
I did tell you that. So once we got that kid under control with not going to school, because they would let them charge up to so much money and eat. But yeah, I did cook breakfast because I felt like that was something that I could do to save money, and I could spend money other ways if I cooked the breakfast, because breakfast is easy to cook.
Right.
Okay. Well, of course, we know who did the breakfast and to get the children ready in this household.
Oh. I thought you was about to say you.
And always got the kids together and always I don't remember you Did you not give him breakfast?
When I found out the school had free breakfast, and I stopped doing.
Okay.
That,
Okay, but she normally had did that.
Get them
And
something.
the reason why I asked, and so I'm gonna ask you ladies, just as a question for you ladies. Was y'all extremely tired at this point only, not beyond, at this point, was y'all extremely tired? Anyone?
You talking about in school?
No, I'm talking about them as wives and mothers at this point. Was y'all extremely tired yet?
I
You
was.
feel like you need a serious break? Did you feel like you need a serious break at that moment in your life?
Yeah. I'll put it like this. When it was time for the children to go to school, I was not one of those mothers that cried.
Okay. And Coach Miss Dibbles actually taught hers. So, gosh, I was trying to figure out, were you tired at this point, even though you constantly with the kids, you teaching them, you getting them up, you getting them ready, and you doing school at the home.
Right.
Was you exhausted at this point?
At a point, at one time I was, but then I knew how to get my breakthrough. Okay, because I had a village. So even if it meant getting out the house for the day once he got home, if it just meant getting in the car, driving to my mama's house, that's what I did. If it just meant going down to the store, going out to get me something from Wendy's, that's what I did. I knew how to have that balance so that I wouldn't break down. I knew that. And then I had a lot of people who helped with my children because I helped raise children. I was a mentor. So I was able to have other people come in and watch my kids, other people to come in and keep the kids while we go out for a retreat or a marriage thing or whatever to go out of town. So I always had people that could help me. So I had that village there. So I knew when it was about time for a break, I was like, look, it's time for a break. And I knew how to get that breakthrough and not break down. So yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, verdicts.
Well, I feel like I know I needed a break, but I was extremely young, and my husband is much older than me. And so
You are no more than 7 years old.
you think I'm getting ready for that Social Security? Okay. I knew I needed a break, but I was much younger. And then I guess our situation was a little unique because it was like I felt like I had a point to prove, as in taking care of all of our kids. And then the things that I wanted to do with my kids, the things I wanted to do with the kids that I carried, I wanted to do with everybody. And so I was stretched very, very, I did a whole lot. Like I was at the school to the point where parents thought that I actually worked at the school. They actually did. But that's how involved I was because I wanted to be there for my kids and make sure that they got what they needed and make sure that there was a parent present. Even though my husband was at work, he took care of the household bills and, that comfort that I had that if I didn't go into work or didn't work a full schedule, he was taking care of everything and I could be there for the kids. So, but I was tired because I did everything. I was stretched between Girl Scouts, Little League football, Pop Warner, like everything. Like I did everything because I wanted every child to experience what I wanted them to experience. So I was just stretched thin, but I guess I had youth on my side. And then, I had youth on my side, but then at the same token, I was tired, but I didn't really know that I was tired, I guess, if that's what I'm trying to say. I just know I had to get it done.
Gotcha.
But I'm tired now.
Okay.
Well, a tip for the younger couples that are doing this now and they are allowed to stay at home. Like I won't say I was forced to stay at home. We agreed that I stay home. But anyway, once I got my kids off to school, you just hurry up and clean and do everything, and then you can chill. So I mean, I don't understand why you be so tired because If the house is clean and you don't cook the food, he doesn't know what you're doing in between all that time. You can just do whatever.
Skip bone. Skip bone.
I'm not trying to give anybody bad habits, but what I'm saying is, if you're home all day, don't be tired doing nothing. Clean your house up. Then when your husband come home, he got food. And when the children come home, they got food, and then it's more pleasant. Not that you're sitting home and just you're having the kids and you're not washing clothes. I mean, there's like the kids go to school like from catch the bus. Mine's caught the bus like early in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning. They didn't get back to 3 or 4. So I had a good bit of time when they started going to school to do whatever I wanted in the day. But I made sure the house was clean. And I make sure they had food. I make sure my husband had food. I'm not saying I did it every day exactly like that, because sometimes I got off sidetrack if I had to go somewhere. But for the most part, when we played skip ball, we played in the comfort of the home. Me and my sister-in-law, because she wasn't working, she was having kids, so she just came to the house and we had a skip ball game. But anyway, I still made sure my husband had food. Even if I had to tell him to hold on for a minute while I go get this food done. I'm just saying sometimes you have to organize what you're doing, you know. I wouldn't want a woman to have the luxury, and it is a luxury and it is a blessing to be able to stay home with your children and then you don't do nothing but complain. Now, and I don't know whether he have this question, but while I'm home and doing all this, don't complain too much now. I never had, you know, don't ask what you've been doing all day, especially if you do it. You know, I mean, I've never had him to say, I've never had you to say what you was doing today. But I've heard people say that, their husbands say, well, what you did all day, and not seeing how busy the schedule was.
Right.
Yeah, it's a busy schedule.
And the reason why I'm glad they brought out some of this, because now you'll see that there's no 50-50. A lot of times these mothers are working incredible long hours. Their husbands are out trying to work, but the wives are working extremely long, tough hours. And a lot of times, you know, today you need to know that if you're expecting your husband to wake up, I was listening to the Darryll say they will wait, give it a little time, first, and see the same child crying that I heard. But a lot of times, somebody gonna get up anyway. A lot of time, often, it's gonna be that woman on average. A lot of times, it's gonna be the woman, and so a lot of times you can make the mistake of believing, oh, you get up this time, then I'll get up the next time. You get up this time, I'll get up the next time. It's not gonna happen. On average, it's gonna be that mother on average, not always, but on average. Okay, so that brings me to another phase, talking about our children. Now, as they got older and they start being more engaged in activities, okay? Now, let me ask you this. When your kids participated in after-school activities, whose job was it to see that they were in attendance? Was it both of your jobs? Or whose job was it? And when I mean that in attendance, I'm talking about after school activities. You know, maybe they play basketball, maybe they play football, maybe they're in the drama club, maybe they was in the beta club. Whose job was it to make sure that they got there and they got picked up?
Don't raise your hand. It was you. Go raise your hand. You're nice. You don't raise your hand.
Okay, let me start off with the Rich said. Go ahead, Rich.
I'm out of
whose job was it? Okay, let me ask you another question. All right, since you mostly picked them up, was you, Brother Darren, heavily involved in their after-school activities? You know, like if they had games, would you make sure you was there and things like that?
Not as much. Obviously, again, the schedule, you know, was tough for me to do any of those things. But again, when you see what you did now versus what you probably should have done, I mean, looking back in retrospect, we always say hindsight is 20/20, and yeah, I would have wished there more time could have been spent for me. I guess the first concern is somebody there to pick them up and to take them where they got to go. That's the first concern.
Mhm.
But because of the time that's shared for me, if I could have just shared in that, it would have meant more to me if I was able to do it. So yeah, looking back, just wish I could have created a schedule that I could make that happen. So yeah.
Okay. Verdicts?
I did. Now I did convince him one time to become Boy Scout troop leader. Because I couldn't be at the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scout meetings at the same time. He did do it I did, and I think the lady, whoever, he did it for a couple months and he stopped. Now
So he was a scout leader.
Yes, and he got his shirt and all. You want me to go get it?
Get it done to put it on. Get it done to put it on. I want to see him in his little hat.
He got his shirt. He got his shirt.
I got too much power, I won't fit my head.
Okay.
But like football and other stuff that the kids played, he would come to some games. He didn't make the whole season. Now he'll tell you he didn't make the whole season, but he didn't make the whole. But I wasn't upset because he got up pretty early, like extremely early. So I felt like the kids should have understood as long as I was there, because we're one. So I'm allowing you to play it. I'm picking you up. I'm doing this. So it's just like your daddy being there.
I'm paying
but
for
he just and he paying for it. So it's like him being there, even though he was not physically able to be there at all of them. He did come to some, but not all.
Can I say something with regards to what Michelle just said?
Yes.
Just for clarification, so people will understand. And I love what she just said, and it made me think about it. Just because, and this is to those who are listening, just because we made certain decisions, and even now we may say, just like I say so often, that there are things I wish I could have done and things that I'm not saying that to say that it was a wrong thing if you've got a couple to decide that it's okay. She said it was okay. She didn't put the stress on him. It was okay for her. That's the decision that they made together. If that works for the couple, it works for the couple. And it's so important that everybody understands that, because don't take what happens with us and try to impose it on your relationship, and you create a situation to where now you on the brink of getting a divorce because you tried to make your relationship be somebody else's relationship.
That's good, yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad she brought that up. So please pay attention to those things, because that was an agreement they made. He's okay with it. She's okay with it. I made it very clear that for me, my wife was fine doing it. At least I think she was. She's still with me, so I'm assuming she's okay. But I want to point out that I want to make it very clear that I said those things that for me, it would have been better for me if I spent the extra time. It was better for me. But the agreement was there. We discussed it. So yeah, I don't want you to feel like you need to take some of these things. You can try them. If they don't work, the intent is that you remain together no matter what you do.
That's right.
That's the intention. So
right. Okay, the Dibbles?
Yes, for us, it's teamwork. The both of us. Both of us do this together. Michelle, I'm tired now. I get tired. This is just my second year with the girls doing sports, extracurricular activities, and he picks them up. I drop them off back and forth. Matter of fact, this is when I had to change with my business as well, because I was having to have other people to pick them up or to take them. And I was like, well, no, this is probably going to be my time that I need to shift and need to change my hours or let my business go, because I need to be with them during this time. So probably when they started doing like the county ball and stuff like that, after that, once they got into high school, then I changed my hours, and I was able to take them. If I couldn't take them, then Eric, he would pick them up. He would do the games. I would be tired. I'd be like, I just can't do all of this. Going to Pillion, going to Batesburg, going to Strong Thurman. I was literally tired. And I used to always fuss at other people. I was like, y'all and them kids and all them sports. I said, I ain't doing all that. I ain't going to do it because it's just too much. And at first I didn't. I was like, Eric, you can go to the game. You go. I'll go to the next one. I'll pick certain ones if it was here in Swansea. But then, like I said, once they got a little older and I noticed they're growing faster and faster, and I'm like, okay, that time is going to get away from you. So then I had to say, okay, like now I'm doing maybe like part-time. And so when I say I'm not going to have any kids, everybody need to be gone by 3:15. So that's where I can, if I need to go to school and pick them up, if I need to go to a game, I'm going to be there. You know, so we both do it together. And sometimes he's tight when he come in and say, well, I'm not going to be able to make a game or whatever. But we both did it. We worked as a team, but they be wearing me out because they go from one sport to the next. My daughter, the baby girl, she go from one sport to the next. You know how they go from volleyball to basketball to softball, and she go from one to the next to the next. And we just in volleyball in the schools start. We probably had maybe 4 games, and I'm tired. I'm tired already.
I'm glad that Darren, you brought this up about how it's going to work with one person might not necessarily work with the other. Because now, when the kids was in sports, y'all know who did the picking up and dropping off. She did. And I tell my children, and I've told them this time and time again, if anybody was ever there for you all, it was your mother.
Yeah.
There was nothing you got involved in that she wasn't there. She picked you up, she dropped you off, whatever activities you had, she was there. I was not there because I thought I just had to work all the time. So,
but I tell him, you're not gonna blame your daddy because he was working. I wasn't working.
That's right.
And I was there, and that was enough for them.
Right.
I don't feel sorry about it, and I don't want my husband to feel sorry about it. And I tell him, I'll pop you in the mouth if you got something to say about it, because
say it.
That's right.
I didn't expect him to, and I'm different from Cindy. I had enjoyed going to the game. I just enjoyed it. Like everybody jumping at LeBron for jumping on the court. If I had that status, I'd jump on the court too, but I didn't. So I just enjoyed taking my children if they were playing in something or chorus, or I didn't have a lot. Josh, one of them had a lot of sports, and the rest of them didn't. But some of them played basketball, and my baby, she didn't play that good. She sat the bench, but she would wave at us, you know. I had fun. But I always tell them, you're not gonna blame your daddy for not being there, because he was there. He was working. He was the reason why I could be there.
Right.
I don't like when people say that, especially if a man is working. Now, if he's out at the bar cutting up with the guys, then we got a problem. You should be ashamed to say that you wasn't there. Or if he said don't want to do nothing. Now, if he's tired from work, that's still okay. You don't expect him to go. You can't just push him to keep going, because he got to be healthy to provide for the family. Because if I'm home and Darryl home, we might not have a home. I'm just saying.
That's right.
You just have to. That's a touchy conversation for me. My children tell you, your daddy, no, he didn't go to every games. But as his work got a little better, my husband and my father-in-law, we will follow the games. We jump in the car. I'm the three of us, and we going. If they played at Gilbert, wherever they played at, Bethune-Cookman, wherever they played at, we would go. I would go with my husband and my father-in-law. We went to all kinds of games, but I don't make my husband feel bad for not going to as much activities as he could.
And that's what brought out. So we want everyone to understand that it must be something that agreed upon structurally wise. The better that is, the more that you can work with that. and it's less likely to have an effect on your marriage, your home, when you gotten together and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, or there's an agreement, like the devil say, we both do it. I drop them off, he picks them up. The other ones, they just like my wife, they did most of that, so it can work. Just do what you need to do to work together. But
That's right.
here's the thing. Now we're going a little bit further. We're gonna deal with something that every father is too tender to do almost, and every mother doesn't like it to be done. Let's talk about discipline.
Oh,
So let's talk about discipline. Now, we know there's many different ways people discipline their children, so we're not saying any particular way. All right, let me do this. I'm going to start, to make it easy, I'm going to start with the Richardson. Who was the disciplinary in the family? Who was the disciplinary? The one that's more likely to allow a child any punishment.
Let me. I think I better answer that question.
Okay.
All right. She was an only child, and I came from a family of 14. So you can almost get an idea of where disciplinary structure comes from in our family. So with the first child, I'm a father. So, now I get the chance. I'm just going to be honest. Now I get a chance to be what my parents been to me. And that's the Beatles. So I can control it now. And I'll be honest with you. Probably when I chastised our oldest for the first time, she cried. I mean, she literally cried. But by the time that third one came along, the way she was wearing them kids out, I was crying. And I'm coming back and, I'm hearing stories, from some of our friends in church talking about, man, Darryll had those kids next to her and she be clapping. The next thing she done whop. And the way they shot, I'm literally about to go in tears the way they talk about how she beat my kids. So I would have to say she probably did most of the chastising. First off, because she was there the most, but I might have been also because she's, I don't know. I'm gonna leave that alone. So I didn't say I was the worst. I said she was the most. Hey, we got a kid in the room. Can we kick him out?
Robert, ain't nobody but Rob.
Hold on, Mr. Darryll, you want to add to that?
Well,
You want to add?
I think that sometimes I probably had to be a little bit harder on them simply because of the way he was. I had to make sure that they still showed me respect as well. So he probably disciplined them less because of the time he was here, but I probably did it more because I was with them a whole lot more. You got another one. So what's your take on it, Rob?
No, we don't need that.
It was both of them. And you talking, you crying, you laugh. You done wrote Grammy Award songs about your husband.
Okay, we're gonna move to the devil.
If it's any area of marriage that I fail in, it's that one. and I think simply because she said it earlier, because they are girls. And I called myself beating one of my daughters one time, and I went right back and said, Daddy love you. Daddy love you. I ain't mean to do that. So by the time I got back to the room with Cindy, she's shaking her head like, and I'm like, Darryll, I'll be back to cry, But she is definitely the disciplinary. And I think it's more so because some of the things that they do, I just let them get by because they are girls. I don't like to see Cindy cry at all. Even when we was dating, she can be dead wrong or something. She started crying, then I'm apologizing for something she done. I'm like, because I didn't want to see her cry. And so I don't like to see my girls cry at all, Even with sports, I tell them, you can play sports all you want to. If y'all lose, don't be doing no crying, because Dad ain't be walking out the thing crying along with y'all. No, we're not doing that. So, but yeah, when it comes to discipline, I had to beat my child, what, about a month ago, 2 months? About 2 months, about a month ago. The first time since 14 years old. And I told her, I said, so you wait till 14 years old to get your butt cut. I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. Not knowing I should be ashamed of myself for saying I beat you at 14 years old. I should be ashamed of you. I wouldn't have to beat you at 14, you know?
Okay. Let me go to yes, go ahead.
Definitely, yes, definitely. I'm the disciplinarian. They always say, "Mama, you so mean. Why you so mean?" And my friends think you mean. And then when they get to know me, they be like, "Oh, your mama's so nice." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm nice. I'm a nice person. I'm really not that mean. I just want y'all to do the right thing." And so then I had to learn, because when we discipline our children, what we want to do is we want to change the behavior. That's the main thing we got to keep in mind. We want the behavior to change. So, and we're not, when we was coming up, some of us felt like, our parents maybe was punishing us because they got my mom got the switches off their tree and she tied them branches together. And she was waiting for me to walk through that door to beat me, which what I say, and which I thought was punishment. But now, they say it's a difference. You don't punish your children, you discipline them now, and change the words. And so discipline is we want them to change their behavior. So we have to do different things to go after that behavior. I want your behavior to change. I'm not doing this trying to hurt you, trying to force on you to hurt you, but I want your behavior to change. So I'm the disciplinarian, and like I said, I'm like, oh gosh, Lord help him. He needs some help. But I think it balances out. It balances out because you don't need two people that are the same. You're gonna need me as that, that disciplinary. And then you're going to need him to go when she realizes that her behavior needs to change. Then she's going to need his arms to grab her and hold her and say, this is what we want, what's best for you.
Right.
And then that's going to give that balance there. Not with me discipline, being so forceful, and then that can turn them another way. Cause them to be even more rebellious if they don't have this tender arm right here to say, okay, come here, I love you. Because we want to change that behavior. We all got to always remember that when we are disciplining our children, we want to change the behavior.
Right. So, verdicts.
Okay, we here.
Which one of you are the disciplinary or was the disciplinary? Because I know your children are grown and out now, but which one were? Well,
I think I was more harder on them than their dad, because he was a no nonsense person. Like when we first got married, and he kept telling our oldest child to stop doing something, and that child wouldn't stop. That belt came off so quick. What? Like what? So I think I was harder on them, as in talking to them and saying what they couldn't do, because I knew if he got hold to him, it wasn't no talking. It was no talking. So I tried to prevent that, but then when they just got to the point where they just didn't want to comply with me, then okay, I stick the bulldog.
That's right.
So you all can imagine who was the disciplinary here. Nah, I was, but
and that was good for me because if I want to discipline, I could, but when I didn't want to say no, I had him to say no. I mean, women, you have to use that when you don't. When I know it should be no, I didn't want to say no. Yeah. So I just let him say no.
And you know what that answer was going to be? No. So, but the reason why I asked that, because a lot of times, here's a little more touchy situation before we get to the end. you know, sometimes you have that child, and of course the deal's already talk about it because he got girls, he don't want to see them cry. You have that child that, you know, you love to give the second, third, fourth, fifth chance. And then you got the child that once they mess up, you own them. You know how it is. Parents are like that. Now, are there, without mentioning their names, are there any child that you thought that maybe talking to would do a little bit better than, you know, corporate punishment, or just cutting them off from going wherever they need to go? Was there any child? I'm gonna start with well, the devil base now gave me the answer because he's tender hearted. So I'm gonna ask you have two girls. Is there one of those girls that maybe sometimes you say, well, I can talk to you and you probably straighten up? And the other one, I know I'm gonna have to go a different route.
Well, I'm waiting on this answer.
Well, with both of them, I think now we're learning we can just talk to them. Okay. We're learning to do consequences based on whatever they did. In other words, if I'm going to discipline them, I got to learn that my consequence needs to be according to what I'm disciplining them for. I don't need to just be like say for instance, like if like one of them is driving now. Okay, so if I tell you to be a certain place and you go somewhere else, a consequence for me to say, well, I'm gonna take your keys and you're gonna never drive again. That's not a good consequence, because that's not true. Because I'm gonna need her to drive again. I'm gonna need her to take her sister to school. I'm gonna need her to go to the store. I'm gonna need her, so that wouldn't be a good consequence. So, but what I can do is say this, and one thing is definitely their phone. They can't live without their phone.
Joe can't.
Okay, so taking their phone, taking her to school or in her car, which I had to do one day because she would not get up. So I said, okay, here you are in 11th grade. You have a car. You can go to school. But because you don't want to get up on time, okay, I'll wake you up in the morning. I'll take you to school and drop you off to school in your car. And then I'll come back and pick you up as well.
After she don't throw water on them.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. I told you get up out of the bed. But I try to do whatever my consequence is. I can really talk to him. Like I said, we don't use corporal punishment. He did for the first time month ago when on our daughter, because you know she kept saying things and I kept telling her. I said, what you're saying is disrespectful. You know, you have to watch your children because they'll be saying little things.
That's right.
And if you don't pay attention to it, they're being disrespectful. They talking back to you is what they're doing. And so I was catching with that. And I said, you better catch her. You need to stop her with that. And so when he did got on her, when she did it, and I guess it was because she've already had the warnings. And so then after he disciplined her, and then he was sad. I was like, why? Why were you sad? Why, you know, are you serious? This is she hadn't needed this. But with both of them, you know, they're good girls, and I feel like I can talk to them and I can take little things from them and, you know, try to redirect them or whatever. And I don't think we have to use corporate punishment for them, but we will if we have to. I don't think we're at that point now, but I mean, it was I was like, I can't believe this. His first time, and it was about to kill him. But I told him they needed that so that they will know.
That's right.
As much as your daddy love you, he'll
that's
pull
right.
that bit out in a minute. Fire that butt up like my brother.
So let me go to the Richardsons. Richardsons, are there any that you felt? Go ahead.
Well, I guess at first, you know, we probably did do a lot of whipping.
Then say we. As
they got older, you kind of learn to deal with them based on their personality. Some of them you can talk to and they do better, and some of them they don't understood one other thing. So.
Be that assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to agree with that. I mean, if I had to say, there's one that you could talk to, and you can see the tears welling up, and I took that as a sense of, they felt like they had either let us down or whatever the case may be when you talk to them a certain way. But then you had one, they just understood one language. That's all they understood. You can talk all you want, and you ain't gonna hear nothing but that belt, laughing. And I have to agree with Cindy. At some point in time, we have to know when we move from that.
Right.
And it's all about language with the children. I think we had a couple on here before we talked about that, where we as a people, we have to understand that it's more than, to some degree, it is more than just, if you're not getting it, I'm gonna pull my belt off and I'm gonna beat you. It's more to it than that, because I've seen cases where that happens so much, and you still only push the child in a place where they become worse as opposed to being better. So we have to ask ourselves, does this process work?
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with us actually breaking it down and seeing what it's all about. Because the intent is, like Cindy said, is to get them to be a better person.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our goal is. Unfortunately, we failed at being, I guess you would say, the people that will want to connect with our children. It's almost, you ain't do what I say, I'm gonna kill you for doing it. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to trying to figure out why this child is this way. What has caused them to get this. And we always find out, we always get to the point of doing that when it's actually too late. We need to start when it's very young, when the time is all about how you interact, the intimacy we talked about earlier. When we learn that, and that's what I think kind of happened with the one that we felt we could talk to. Somewhere along the way, the intimacy was there to the point where, man, I let my parents down and it's hurting me. But somewhere with the other one, they figured out a way to, if I don't get a beating, then I done won. But no, bro, if you feel that way, I'm gonna cut your butt every time. But I can't blame the child for that. Obviously, somewhere along the way, we as parents could have, approached that a different way, to where we could have done all of them that way, because that's what we want now. We want it to the point where, man, you saw how big these boys are now. I can't beat these guys now. These boys will kill me. So now you want to hope that you've gotten to a place where it's about communicating and you touch the heart, because they're at a place where at some point in time they're going to be somebody's father and somebody's husband. And you want to hope that that's what you build. I think that should be the ultimate goal for discipline, is that we build a relationship that the people that God has blessed us with, which would be our children, we were able to pour into them the things that make them better husbands and fathers and community leaders or whatever they may be. So discipline should be a part of that. And we have to use that tool, not just as, punishment for you having done something wrong, but how do we connect them and bring them to leading them to where we want to take them to.
Okay. So verdicts?
Okay, so I'm glad that this is a show of our own experiences and opinions, because just like Job, he made a sacrifice per adventure that his kids. So I felt like sometimes looking back, I should have beat them just. That's how I felt, because I know you done something. I tell my adult children, don't tell me them sneaky things y'all used to do, because I don't want to hear, because I will probably try to fight you now. Growing up, I just felt like, yes, that's what they needed. They had a lot of foolishness in them, and I was going to talk it out and beat it out of them. That's how I felt. Because it's a cruel world. It's a cruel world. And being who they were, they already had strikes against them. So it was like I was trying to get them to understand quickly as possible, you can't do everything that everybody do.
Right.
Because the world will eat you up. You'll get caught up.
Right.
And I didn't want you to go that route. So that's how I was brought up. And that's how I brought them up. And they'll tell you, I just feel like I should have beat them a little bit more.
I'm with you, Shell. Listen,
Nah.
because all of them got stories now about what
Right.
they did when they got grown. All of them have stories about what they done that they say, well, you didn't know about this, I did this, I did
Right.
that. Well, I didn't discipline you enough. So if I you would have did that.
But a lot of times I think what Cindy was saying and Darren, I agree with
Right.
them. But to be the advocate here, a different opinion about it. I believe in discipline, but then for today's people, they do nothing with them at home, and they get out in public and make them shame.
Sure.
And then they want to hit them
Right.
and you walk out
Hit
and
'em.
stuff to them. I'm not
Right.
talking about that kind of discipline,
Right.
but my husband, he was a disciplinary. I had to court martial him a couple times. You know, like, oh, Darryl, you know. But my kids had some wild stories. Like one of them, she did something, and my Darryl will always say, "Go in the room." And you know when he said, "Go in the room," that was it. And she cried. I could hear her crying, and she said, "Daddy, don't beat me. He made me do it. He made me do it." And Darryl said, "Who made you do? Who made you do it?" She said, "That man down there." They call the devil made me. You know, so you know, if a child tell me that, I'm like, okay, I don't know at that time. And stories. I didn't call no names.
You know who
No names. But like, and I don't know. Y'all gotta be careful, young parents, about this. How you can look in their eyes and you can see their forgiveness. Because I got one man could write you a apology letter. I went to the schoolhouse one time and he did something, and most of the time it was like trivia, maybe, but it wasn't trivia to me because we were taught you listen. Like when we went to school, we listened to the teacher. We did what we was told to do. That's half of the battle with teaching a child. If they respectful, then you can pour more into them. But he would get in trouble. Well, I said he, but they would get in trouble. More than one. They could write the most beautiful letter. And I would have the principal say, Miss Albert, he already saw the fire in my eyes. He knew what was going to happen. Because my husband, even though he worked a lot, even when it came to discipline, that was it. He would get off his job and go to the schoolhouse and stand to the door. Back then, you could, check in on your children. He would, if they said, okay, I'm gonna get your daddy, they didn't have much problem because he delivered on everything he said. But I had one that could write the most beautiful apologetic letter, and then the principal would say, well, Miss Albert, don't do anything to them because they have changed their ways. This was such a beautiful letter. And I just it almost brought me to tears. I'm looking at you, big dummy. So you just, some children can play on your emotions. Manipulate. But the purpose of discipline is because you want them to be a better person. It's not about hurting them. It's not a pity moment on good time, but you just angry and you want to do things to them. Right. And sometimes they make you angry with the decision they're making, but it's about you wanting them to be better. You want them to be respectful, and you want them to be better. Like I had one of my children would go, man, what you done did now? They got tired of it. Just like, just straighten up and do right. Straighten up and do right. And everything will be fine. But my husband, now he took that role, the disciplinary. Yeah, he took that. Even though they call me Miss Sophia, but
okay, we have a question here that I'm actually not going to ask this one. I'm asking another one. Because we're about to end this. And then we have the final question that we're going to ask about changing. What would you change? But let me ask you this. Today, is there any one of your children that you know can take advantage of your spouse?
Mm-hmm. No. Yes.
This is what I'm gonna do. I think I pretty much know the devil's answers, but I'm going to do them anyway. I'm going to do them first. Let me ask the devils. Okay, the devils.
Yes. Those girls can pull anything over his head. Yep, they can be manipulative, and I try to tell him, you got to be strong at this thing right here. You got to be in this together. Okay? Don't let them get you. Don't let them trip you up.
Hey, Eric.
Yes, sir.
It ain't no answer in that corner. I see you looking up in the corner.
Hey, one of the girls just walked down. I'm trying to flag her to go. And let me just set it up. It's not that they throw it over my head. I allow it to go over my head.
Yeah. And
sometimes.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because I want to ask you, and I'm asking all the men before I get to that same question with all of y'all. How come y'all allow your girls on average to be your heartstring? Just think about it.
That's a good question.
It is.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Mr.
I think most of, because with me, I heard so many stories about kids running away, and now there are so many other avenues where what's called a thing where people adopt the kids and take them. Sex trafficking, and you know, and I didn't want the girls to lean on another 13 or 15-year-old for comfort or love. You know what I'm saying? Or for somebody to treat them like somebody. So I allow things to go over my head. Like Cindy said, it's a balance that we fell into, where she's the disciplinary when it comes to fussing and all that kind of stuff, and I just go and try to smooth things over and say, look, okay, dude, this is what happened, this is why she did what she did. But I didn't want to put too much pressure on them, because I didn't want them to run away. I didn't want them to fall prey to any kind of cyber stalkers. I want them to be able to share with me, because while she's fussing, they'd be able to tell me with daddy. Matter of fact, that same one I beat, she said with daddy, I say, Bean, you know why you got to beat? Oh, I ain't even call her name. I don't mess up. And she say, first, let me explain why I said what I said. And I allow her time to explain what she had to explain, you know, even though it still didn't add up to me not beating her.
Right.
That still would have been the final disciplinary. But like you say, sometimes these kids, they got these slangs now that they use, and it's disrespectful. And they think us older folks don't know, like we behind time. Like, daddy, you don't know about this. I'm like, girl, what you doing, I've already done. So there's nothing new up under the sun. But
like I would tell him, you know, so when we are in agreement, like Miss Janice said, sometimes she didn't have to say no. She would tell him and he was to say no. And so sometimes when, you know, like my parents, you know, a lot of times we say, well, I'm gonna raise my kids like my parents raised me. You can't, sometimes that don't work.
No, that don't.
So you have to realize what works for your home. Okay, so some of the things my parents did for me, they did for me during my time, but now it's my children's time. Some of those things I can use, but some of those things I can't use. I got to use another avenue. And so when I try to talk to my girls and tell them things, and even when I can tell that they're being manipulative, they'll say, I'm gonna ask daddy. I can even hear them sometimes saying, well, or they'll say, well, daddy will buy it. And then I have to tell him, I have to go run over to him and say, don't you get it? Don't you get it? They already done said it. But sometimes, oh, well, they've been so good. They make good grades. They ain't been giving us no problem. So that's what they're supposed to do. That's their job. They don't work. We feed them every day, clothe them. You ain't got to reward them for everything that they do. That's what they're supposed to do. So that's with him, but oh God. But anyway, somebody else go on because
okay. Let me ask you. Well, the Richardsons, let me ask you. Okay.
Go ahead.
What do you want me to say? you said your question, I'll make sure I'm remembering it right. You said that is there any one of us that our children that we treat? What was your question? I want to make sure I'm answering her. I know the answer I want to say.
Is there any one of your children today that can take advantage of your spouse?
That's what that's the word I couldn't remember. Advantage. Yeah. Yes. All of them got her. All of them. All three. All of them. So yeah, I guess I didn't put them all on blast, but yeah, I'll put it like this. She responds to them as adults differently than I do. And it's I don't know if it's the motherly thing. I mean the mothers can share. It's just something about I know it's like there's more done, that I would do for grown adults because yes, they're my children, but they grown. They grown, but I don't fight that. But I must say, just for me, and like Eric said, I've only got one girl, and she's my baby. And even though I still discipline her to a certain degree, these kids, see, I don't have to put them out of my house.
Put them out. Put them out.
I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't even know how to put an actual, an educated answer on that. But it's for we as men, our desire is to teach our sons to be independent men, but yet we want to protect our daughters because that's what we as men feel we need to do, not with any woman, our daughter, our mother, our wife, we feel that need to protect them. And we feel like the most innocent of that is our daughters. And we may go, I don't know, people say maybe we might go too far with it, but I don't know what too far is. And I haven't had enough said to me to make me want to pull back in doing more than I think I can ever think of for my daughter. That's just me. So if I had to say that if one would take advantage, and the thing I like about it is she doesn't do it. She can get probably anything I got, and she still won't do it. She won't. She rarely asks. She probably asks her for money more than she asks me for money.
She don't ask me either.
Well, see, that's more than she asks me. But she does know that if there's anything she needs, she can always come to daddy. And I don't know, maybe somewhere in there she learned to be independent. She was the first. Well, she wasn't the first to move out, but she's moved out and she's living on her own. She's trying to support herself and take care of herself. And I have to say, I can't remember either getting one phone call or even when she's been in my presence where she says, well, Dad, I need this. But she knows she can get it. So if she could take advantage of me, she's known that. So it ain't like I'm saying nothing she don't know. So I would have to say it would be her. But for her, it's all of them.
Okay. The verdict.
You want to answer? Okay. He don't want to talk now. He's tired. I'm going to try and sum it up and put it all up in perspective. I feel like our children know, because they're grown, they know what situation, who heartstring to pull on. Some might go to me for certain things. Some might go to him for certain things. So all of them are manipulative. And it might be 50-50. It might be 90-10. Because if there's certain things that he know I wouldn't go for, he's not going to tell me he did it. And it's certain things he wouldn't go for. I'm never So we just got a variety. I guess we play that bunch. We just got a variety. Unless you really want to tell who pull on your heartstring. Is it? Oh, he being so sweet. He said, I'm the one pull on his heart.
Oh, good answer. Good answer.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I think all my children got me at a place.
See, I ain't the only one.
But there is a main one.
There is not a main.
There is a main one.
There is not. I don't know what they're talking about. They always say that to me. I don't have a main one. I love all my children.
You love them all, but there is a main one.
Oh, wow.
You don't know who
You
it is.
already called the name.
But they always, I don't know, but it's between the two boys. That's what y'all trying to push off on me. I love my boys. I do. But I love my daughters too.
Look at that question.
So real quickly, somebody asked the question: do any parents have favorites?
Smart answer, no. Smart answer, no. Good answer.
Yeah,
But I
would.
think y'all kind of just answered that there's someone that just can tug on your heart, kind of with ease. And even though the children know that they can go to their mother, there is one that can tug just so easy. But anyway,
Do you have one? That's the
you
question.
know I don't have any. But here's the thing.
Yes, he does.
I'm
That one that just threatened to cut us off.
gonna ask her. I'm gonna ask her just real quick. Give me a quick answer on this one. Give me a real quick.
Yeah, because we gotta go to the up.
Because we got one more answer. We got one more question after this that we really want everyone to answer. So real quick, at what age did you think your child could date? At what age?
At what age?
At what
At
age?
what age when it comes down to dating that you thought was a good idea, or just give me a quick perspective when you think they should date or not, or did you have a certain age or maturity level?
Quickly, I think at 18 when they got out of high school. I didn't see now whether they dated or not, that's a different story. We didn't know. But saying they had a boyfriend or girlfriend, that was out of the question because where you going with this? You're 18, you're in school, dating to me leads into something else that you can actually move to the next phase. At 18 or under 18, you can't move to the next phase because you don't have a job. You hadn't finished school yet. Like certain things at least you need to finish high school and then get a job, do certain things. So yeah, I think after high school, that's when it was more acceptable to me.
Okay, the Richardsons.
Well, we definitely didn't have an age, but and I'm kind of like Michelle. My encouragement was, I don't think dating should come into play until you are thinking about a relationship, and when you're capable of doing so. I'm talking about a relationship that goes to marriage.
Right.
I mean, as parents, that's what we have to do. We have to consider that. Otherwise, we set children up. And this is what I always would say. Dating, as I've seen it, even when I was younger, was two people trying to do what married folk do without making the commitment that married folk make. And that's dangerous even more so now because people will go every extent. And what we're missing is, the point we're missing is that there's a reason why people don't want to commit. And that's what's destroying relationships, and it's literally destroying cultures. It's tearing it up because if we can get everything we want now, there's a reason we don't commit. We don't commit because I want to be able to say that when I'm done with you, I'm done with you. But we've done everything that married folk do. Everything well, you know what we do.
Right.
But I can easily walk away when I'm tired, when I don't want to be there, when I don't want the relationship anymore. And I go and do the same thing with somebody else. So yeah, I always wanted to discourage dating unless you were ready to start at least thinking about marriage. And if you were in a place to think about it, I don't care if you're in college and you're working towards, starting a career, because now you're at a place where you're working towards it. I understand that. Then maybe that's a good time if you want to consider having a significant other. And then even in that, there should be, restraints and restrictions that you don't go beyond, because again, respect is the greatest part of a relationship. And if you can't respect people enough to wait and do what married folk do when it's time to do it, then you've already caused a problem again. So, I mean, that's another subject I know we can go on forever with, but that would be my simplest of an answer.
Okay, the Devils.
Yes. As far as with dating, of course, we have a 9th grader and 11th grader. We say no dating. There's no boyfriend. We already explained to that, and definitely no girlfriend. You gotta do that one too, because they gonna okay. All right, don't forget that one either. And you know, and so we tell them, but this is where it got different for me with how I'm doing my girls, with how my parents did me. Okay, because I think Eric was able to come pick me up from school maybe my senior year when he was like, you know, he was able to pick me up from school. I was in Columbia and take me home. Okay, so my girls, like one of them, the 11th grader, she has a friend that moved from Mississippi. He's a male, came from Mississippi and moved here probably when they was in the 7th grade. And so they say they are BFF, best friends forever. I said, okay, y'all make sure y'all stay BFF. Y'all was best friends forever. All right, but what happens is because time are changing, and we don't want them to be doing things behind our back, which they're going to do as well. We don't have any control over that. But the things that I can control, I can invite him over, come over and have dinner. He has invited her to go to church with him. You know, things that's in my control, because I don't want to be too strict, you know, and then they do it behind my back. But then I don't want to be too lenient and then just let them do whatever they want to do as well. So you just kind of have to play it by ear and just watch them and watch their demeanor with each other and everything. And, you know, getting to know the parent, you know, and I think that's what helped too. Learning the parent, having contact with the parent so you know who your child is dealing with. Because look, I don't care. We don't care how good you raise your kids. When they walk out that door, they're going to be exposed to every other spirit, every other child that's probably nothing like them, and they can become attached to them. Don't you know good girls like bad boys?
Okay.
So we have to be able to help our children, not saying stay away from this, stay away from that. We have to train them and we have to teach them and we have to show them that love and that compassion in the home. But we say no dating. And when he come over here, I'll be like, y'all not dating, right? Y'all remember, this is not a date. When I write about this is not a date. But he will. I help him get his driver's license. I help my daughter get her driver's license as well. And you know, on a Sunday occasionally, I used to take them to swimming lessons together. Occasionally he'll come over and he'll ask, can he take both of them to Chipotle? They say they're going to do work. That's what they say now. They're going to Chipotle and they're going to do work. They got their little books and everything, their little Chromebooks. So you know, I gotta trust them. Now we on that phone making sure that car at Chipotle as well is where she's supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? So we kind of like give them a little leeway, but don't let them go too far. Just like, you know how that child, you had that little thing on their arm and you got to be able to snatch them back. You got to kind of like build that trust and try to help them. But we say no dating. So, go ahead.
I've seen it where a parent had been back in '89, back in those days, where a parent was so strict that this girl went to the football games, had to be right back home. She couldn't go to school dances. She couldn't go to no kind of parties at people's houses. And all her high school. But when she got out of high school, let me tell you what happened. This is a true story. When she got out of high school and went to college, she got buck wild. Uneducated of the streets, uneducated how guys play on. She was just uneducated. And she come from a good home. And she just got wild. So I said to myself, I was not going to be that strict on my children, but I want to be attentive to them, their activity. And that same guy, I told Cindy, I'm gonna invite him to the house. We can go out back. We're gonna shoot. I'm gonna show how good of a shot I am. You know, maybe. Really, Eric? Yeah, I don't want to show him how good I can shoot. That's all. But I didn't do it. But I was going to do it. But I do feel there's a balance, but you got to be careful with that. You really do. And because I didn't want, because I've seen that and witnessed that, I didn't want my children being, in fact, even if I had boys, I would do the same thing. And I'll just be honest. And somehow or another, we as, I ain't say parents, because I can't speak for everybody. I just got it in my mind. We are tight on the girls, but we let them boys run loose. Oh yeah, we tight on them girls, but we let them boys run loose. And so when I think by being that, by fact I got two girls, I'm watching them, but at the same time, I didn't want them to be ignorant of all those devices out in the world. I want them to be exposed a little bit during high school, so when they do go to college, at least they'll know a little something about life instead of experiencing all in college being peer pressure. So,
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And speaking on that subject, we had a all women's panel last week, and I think it was like misconstrued. I said that our children didn't date. I'm not talking about when they got older. I'm talking about in school. Like we did not allow them to date while they were in school. When they got older, of course, if they're seeking or wanting to be married, you're gonna have to figure out who that person is. But like in time past, I found out, and it's true to the day that even though back then our parents was tougher on us, but I do feel, and this is only my opinion, that today's children, we can't be that tough on them, but then we have to be because they're so fragile.
Right.
They can't deal with when you open up those emotions on a young lady at that early age. They just lose it. They can't hone it back in. Back then our parents said what they said and meant what they said. And we could take it. We were tougher. Now you got so many young people in general, young boys. I mean, you're putting them in a different light. You got them in 9th and 10th grade talking about we dating, and then when she break up, come and shoot the house up, and they can't take anything. So it's best just to stay. Oh, I think just to stay away from it until you mature. You got some women's 25 years old ain't mature enough to be married.
all right.
I mean, they just not stable mentally, emotionally. They can't handle a home. So why even, I talk to my kids all the time. I don't want them to go any other route, but I'm gonna just keep talking. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm not gonna beat it in them. I'm gonna drill it in them. Just keep talking, keep talking. And all I can do is give them advice. Because like Eric said, some of them go out and good kids. Sometimes, good girls, little wild boy. It's just all kind of things. But as a parent, I feel good when you have taught them the right way. And if they go out and do it, you can't be relaxed, but you can say to yourself, I tried my best.
Yeah, right.
But when you don't try, when you let them do everything they want to do,
Right.
don't try to go come back and push it in your face. If my mama, like I tell people talking about punishment or this or that. I might have heard of one person she was foolish. It was a young black girl. But I don't know if anybody in jail that would say if my mama shouldn't have disciplined me and then I wouldn't do this. Most of them there because they wasn't disciplined, because they were allowed to have their way. So I just wanted to clear that up when we had the workshop. I wasn't talking about when they were older. I was talking about when they were younger. So and then another thing, DeLauren asked the question, is there different different dating rules for sons and daughters versus daughters? I know they put it up there, but anyway, some people it is.
Are there different rules?
Some people it is.
Well, most of y'all kind of gave the same rule that you just had concerning dating. But real quickly, the Darryll's already say that, being that they have daughters, so I would have to ask the Richardson. Well, and they pretty much say that if it would lead to marriage, then they didn't thought it was.
No, I think she's saying you don't want your girl to go out, but then you allow your boy
to
rabbit to street.
But what I was saying was just since they gave the thing that is that true with your males as well as females, your twins as well as your daughters?
That's a good question, and the whole subject is a very good subject because the question is, what is that we do? I mean, the interest is there, and I think defining dating is the question, and I think what Eric and Cindy did was they don't want to label it dating because we equate dating with what we're trying to keep our children from until it's time for them. So what she mentioned was those are relationships. I never discourage relationships because you're right. Those things are going to happen, whether it's in your face or behind your back. You would want them to be in your face, but you do the best you can to encourage them that this is not dating as you see the word dating, meaning you can't single this person out to only want to do this with. I'm going to only do this with them. I'm only going to do this with them. I want to kiss this person. I want to hold this person. That's what society says dating is. And when we say we're trying to prevent them from that, that's what we mean. We're trying to keep them from doing things that married folk do. A 12, 13-year-old child who say they dating and think they have everything that they see the kids around the school doing a part of that dating process. No, you don't do that. 12, 13-year-old, they have no business kissing and, holding hand and doing other things that they shouldn't do. And that's what we try to discourage, even though they probably still would do it. We want to discourage that.
Right.
So what we define dating as changes. Now, in terms of responding to the question, it seems to be that there is a difference with what we do. I don't know if it's the right thing, but it's a natural thing. For some reason, especially we as men, we tend to give more leeway to the boys in a different perspective as opposed to the girls. I don't know if it's right, but I'm just being honest. That's what we do.
All right.
So I to answer her question, yeah, we probably do that, but I don't know if that's the right thing. I wouldn't say it's the right thing to do. We should be, because I've had my daughter in so many ways to ask that question. You let them do things that you don't let me do. Well, a large portion of that is when you're to the place where you're enjoying the relationship of someone, when you're of age that we have agreed on, as we discussed, then there's something you expect the boys to do versus, in other words, why you always got to go pick him up? If he's got a car and you always got to go pick him up, I mean, that's what I want my boys to do, because I want to have, if this is some person that they're interested in going to the next level with, then I want her to at least know that he is a man she can depend on, and that a man that would do those things that we as men want to teach our boys to do. So in some way, we see that as being different, if that's kind of answering her question. I would expect the boys to do that, but I wouldn't expect my daughter to always go pick up the guy that she says she's dating. I mean, does he not have a car? If he ain't got a car, why he ain't got a car? Because he ain't got a job. Well, see, now you're going down the road that you're trying to protect them from something. You know what I'm saying? Why you always got to pay for the meal? I mean, things like that. So there may be different rules that we put on the girls versus the boys in that regard. But and I hope I'm answering the question. But yeah, I mean, there are certain rules that we do have, and then there's some that maybe we shouldn't. When it comes to letting the boys do certain things versus letting the girls do certain things. So
okay, I think the verdicts and all right. Did y'all want to add to that?
No.
Okay. But anyway, even with that, I really didn't. I pretty much gave my boys the same rules I gave my girls. I didn't want my boys to destroy nobody's daughter's life, no more than I wanted somebody's son to destroy my daughter's life. Right. So I basically gave them the same rules. When it came down to dating, my perspective on it always was, you're dating for what reason? And if there was no reason, no purpose behind it, I say, why would you occupy yourself emotionally with someone just to do it? Mm-hmm. Because it's a strain on you being with somebody emotionally. And the younger the age is, the more likely you're not mature enough to handle it. Because I've seen 20, 30, 40 years old can't handle their emotions. So I will always tell my children, still do try to tell them, if you're in position to get married, that's different. So, when it came down to dating, we pretty much gave that rule about what's your purpose. That was always my question, what's your purpose? And as the devil brought out, sometimes you do have to mind your children like the way they did, and you got to mind your kids and set them up for the different devices. Because boys, some of these men, but not only men, some of these women got some tricks up their sleeve. To get you involved in something that you shouldn't get. But anyway, our last question for the night. Our last question for the night was,
you need to pull it up. Okay.
What's the one thing you all would do differently if you could in raising your children? Okay, I'm gonna start with the devils, and I'm gonna go around the devils to the riches and to the verdicts. The devils, what the one thing you all would do differently if you could in raising your children?
The only thing I think I would have did differently probably would have like Michelle said, beat them more. Honestly. Hey, I said it earlier, didn't I, y'all? The only thing I feel as a husband is discipline, right?
Right.
So if I feel anything to do differently, it would be I would have beat them more. Still have beat them more.
No.
Yeah. So other
No,
than that, I felt as a parent, I'm proud of how God have allowed me to raise them thus far. I really am, and I'm looking for the manifestation of the labor in the future.
Right.
But you know, to answer that question, stay on task and make it quickly. If anything I could change, it would be that.
Not to beat them more, but
Well,
to be
discipline
disciplined more.
No, beat them more.
And don't be so fragile about it.
Beat them more.
You just beat one and you almost passed out.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying.
But anyway,
if it was one thing I think we could change is being me as being a mom and getting on them is probably fussing a little more. I wouldn't fuss as much, which I'm learning now.
Oh yeah.
I'm learning now because they always tell me, you know, Mom, you're not listening. You know, you're not listening. You're not listening to what I'm saying. You know, you already jumped to conclusion. You all upset, you fussing, so you're not listening to me. So then I gotta learn to listen a little bit more. And just take time to hear their side of the story. You know, don't always jump to the conclusions or already because we know, okay, we already got on the phone. I already see you wasn't where you were supposed to be. Okay, don't just chill out when they come in. Well, where you been? Did you go where you're supposed to be? You know, just calm down, be calm about it, and then let's talk about it. Don't just, why you at somewhere? I said on the phone, you were supposed to be somewhere. See. And then now you going back and forth with the child. And then we ain't gonna have that because you ain't gonna be going back and forth with me. But see, I approached the situation wrong, right? Sometimes we approach the situation wrong. Sometimes we come off wrong. So that's one thing that I would do. And that's one thing that I am working on, learning to listen to them more when when there's definitely a conflict.
Okay. All right. We have the Richardsons.
For me, I kind of wish maybe I had if I had to do it all over again, maybe a little bit more teaching or being more consistent with things. I think that's it. Just being a little bit more consistent with my upbringing or teaching them different things in life.
Okay.
And I would say, and I kind of alluded to it throughout the session, is I would, like you, I made it very clear of the agreement we made, and I still wouldn't want to go back on that agreement. I would encourage anybody to do that because in this day and age, if one or both are not raising your children, then they're left to either daycare or they're left to the school system, and it eliminates the time you spend with them. And intimate time starts with time. You have to have time. So I would say if I could go back, the one thing I would change is maybe not want so much so that I can minimize what I have to provide so that I can spend more time with my family. Because once I realized when my baby turned 18 and I realized, man, we still young. I could have done all the stuff I felt that was so important to do while they were growing up. And I had plenty of time to do it now. But the thing is, and Michelle kind of alluded to that earlier, the unavoidable or the inevitable thing with bringing up children is that they are going to grow up. And we as parents, we are figuring out the best thing we do. But they're still growing whether we figured out the right way or we figured out the wrong way. And I hope that this advice would be, valuable to those who are listening because we are sharing with you something that you ain't going to be able to change. Relationships you can continue to work on long as together. But you only get one chance to raise your children. Absolutely one chance. And I wish that looking back for me, as I've said throughout this podcast, if I had just not wanted so much and felt like I needed to provide so much so that I could be there with her, picking them up from the games, being there with them in the games and being there to share in the, when they crying in the middle of the night. then that would have meant a whole lot to me, because while I'm spending that time with them, I'm teaching, I'm connecting with them. And maybe through that connecting, you don't have to beat so much. We talked about the child that we could talk to. I believe there was a connection that happened there where you could talk, and the discipline, just the talking was enough discipline for that child. But that could have happened, I think, with all of them, if the time was allowed. So we have to make the time. So if I could do it all over again, that's what I would do. I would build my time with my family first, and then everything would have to be centered around that. If I needed to stay in a 2-bedroom apartment for 10 years instead of 1 year, then that's what I would encourage you to do, because the time will come, if the Lord allows you to live, that you can do all that extra stuff, because the children will be gone. And you would have built such a solid foundation with them that they can be on the other side of the world and don't want to make a decision without calling and getting mom and dad's advice. And that takes time to build. So I just think that, if I had the opportunity, that's what I would want to, redo over if I could.
Okay. And the verdicts?
If I had to do it over again, I say, as Brother Darren said, and Brother Eric said, I will spend more time with my kids than what I have done as they're coming up. But a lot of us was involved in church, so we know we had to go to church. All right, and a lot of that took up a lot of our time. But those Friday nights games and those practices, if I could change time, I would want to be there with them and participate in those things. But I can't change time. But if I could, that's what I would want to do. Then I go back to what the brother Eric said. I will whoop them more.
That's right.
Now I'm gonna say something else too. I admire so much the time that my son and my daughter is putting in with their sons that they have. How they have a lot of time for them, and I admire that so much. And I see that great relationship that they have together. Not saying that my kids don't have a relationship, but I wish that if I can turn around time, I want to be just like those kids of mine with their kids, putting a lot of time. Even as Michelle said before, even when I wasn't there, we still kind of swimming because we understand the circumstance that was going on. But if I can change time, I would put a lot of time in and teach them a lot more than what I've taught them. That's me.
Well, I'm gonna make a disclaimer. I love all of my children. I am so proud of them. And I gave them everything that I had. Was every decision that I made correct or good from them? No, but I gave them my best, what I thought was good for them. God gave them to me, and He wanted me to instill what I had into them. So with all that being said, I would not trust my children. And I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. I would not trust them. As adults, I mean, I felt like, but I'm going to explain why I say it now. I felt like, okay, he's out, he's the breadwinner. I'm the wife. I'm cleaning, cooking, making sure they got clean clothes, everything. They're being involved in school. You know what I'm saying? Developing socially, emotionally, spiritually. I'm making sure all the points are connected. And I felt like if I'm doing all of this, the kids should have fall in line to do what they're supposed to do. But as adults, the stuff that they done told me that they did, I shouldn't have trusted them. I should not have trusted them. Right, and that's why you see them more. Because I should not have trusted them. Because kids are tricky. Somebody said that earlier. Kids are very, very tricky. And the foolishness that's in their heart, it's like they got, I'm not saying they bad kids now. They were bad because I enjoyed my kids. But they had a lot of foolishness in their hearts. And because sometimes that they're younger, even though we've been there, done that, they get more clever with it that sometimes you ain't so quick to catch what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I would do. I wouldn't trust them, but I love them.
Okay. Jazz, you have anything you want to add to that? If you had to do it over.
Well, I don't know. I did the best I could. I'm like Michelle. I
I
felt
can
like
go.
I poured so much. Um, Maybe I didn't cross every T and dot every I, but I tried. I mean, I'm like I was there. Then I used to, well, I used to force them to do things. I would probably wouldn't do that again. Like before they went to school, I made them hold hands and pray. I don't care whether they was praying or not. It's just like certain things I just force them, but I don't see nothing that I was with them. I was home.
Right, you was
I
home.
was home, so I had time. Maybe I could have brought them more toys. I didn't need
No more toys.
I didn't need a lot of toys. I'm gonna tell you, like, I just didn't. I just didn't feel like. I mean, you go outside and play and make memories with the mud and stuff. I mean, like,
Kids didn't
I
need
just
no more
didn't feel
toys.
a need to go with a bunch of toys and your husband out working, and I'm spending money on toys when they got each other to play with, and maybe that's it. Maybe I'd have bought him a little bit more toys. Maybe that's it.
And with me, it goes back
Toys.
to what a lot of the men say concerning time, because it doesn't. It's amazing how fast time goes, and how quick it flies by. Excuse me. And it's amazing that you miss out so much. You miss out on a whole lot just by being wherever you say you were going to be, wherever the agreement was working. You miss so much while you're out working.
Yeah.
I am thankful for my wife being there. I know they was in good hands, and they were being raised right. But when it comes to me, I think I spend way too much time working than just cutting off, saying, look,
Yes.
I can show up at this game, cut off, look, I can be at this practice, cut off, look, I can be here more. And I don't think I did that enough. So nevertheless, we on to tonight's show, I hope someone get that. It takes not only structure, it takes people working together to try to bring their children up. And another thing is this. Those who thinking about dating, I would suggest you talk to your parents. I don't care how old you are.
That's right. Yeah.
I think you really would benefit by talking to your parents about whether or not you're ready, whether or not you're mature enough, whether or not the person you're dealing with is a good person, because your parents have your best interests at heart. And believe me, parents, that we're not perfect, but at the same token, we want to do what's best for you as our children. Our mindset is to make you better than what we were. And so I hope that's what everybody got out of that, as well as the structure, the family structure. These people work together to provide you with the best home. And for those who you're getting married, about to get married, you have to understand there's no such thing as 50-50 when you're raising children. It's a lot of work you have to put in it. Somebody gonna have to be the disciplinary. Somebody gonna have to have the bad name. Somebody gonna have to be the one that the children can run to and get an understanding as to what happened and why it happened the way it happened. You need that type of structure. So anyway, if there, I think that's it for tonight. We hold y'all up enough. I tell you, you all was beautiful. Amen. Thank God for, amen, the advice that each and every one of you gave on tonight. So on tonight, you haven't, well, we're going to ask them, anyone have any quick things to say to Ferg? You have anything quick you want to say?
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay, Richardson, you're good? Good. We enjoy you all talking about the children. Don't let them talk on your heart anymore like the way they can. Take advantage of you, because I know you got something that will and can do it, because you said it. But anyway, from the average to everyone in the audience, good night. May God bless you, and hopefully you will like, comment, and share tonight's episode with someone you know that can use the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding. So everyone be blessed on tonight. Be blessed, everyone.
All right. God bless you.
Bye.
See ya.